My guest tonight is one of the very few people to know what it feels like to be the fastest man on the planet. Frederick Carlton Lewis made his first Olympic team at age 19 and would go on to run and jump his way into the record books as the greatest American track and field athlete in history. He won 4 consecutive gold medals in the long jump, 2 consecutive gold medals in the 100 meters, on his way to becoming one of the most famous athletes of his generation. But before going undefeated in the long jump for over a decade, did you know he often lost backyard races to his younger sister? Grew so quickly in high school, he had to walk on crutches, signed his first shoe deal with Nike while he was still in college. Tonight, we'll learn what makes this undeniable icon who he is, a man who once said life is about timing. Please welcome 9-time gold medalist Carl Lewis.
Good, good. Thank you. All right.
You look like you can still run.
Well, you know, looks can be deceiving. I don't know if I'd finish.
If I gave you 6 weeks to prepare, how fast do you think you could run the 100?
I try to be in the 11s.
Okay.
Yeah, in the 11s. I think I could 8 weeks.
8 weeks.
Yeah, 2 weeks is like trying to lose some weight.
How athletic were your parents?
Parents were very athletic. Starting with my father, they met at Tuskegee. And my father played football and ran track at Tuskegee. And my mother actually was an Olympian. She was, someone saw her coach, Major Abbott from Tuskegee, saw her racing one day. He was looking for boys for the track team. And so he offered her some sort of scholarship at the time. And my grandparents said, we'll figure out a way. So she went there. So she went there and she was American record holder and area record holder in the hurdles. And she made the Olympic team, but she didn't go because of an injury. So she never got a chance to make it to the games, but she made the team.
You were born in Birmingham, but then at a young age moved to New Jersey.
Right.
Why?
Well, it goes back a little bit before that. My parents, when they finished Tuskegee, they moved to Montgomery. And there, my mother met Rosa Parks. And so they became friends, and then the family got involved with Dr. King's church. And so when the bus strike happened, my parents had a car. So they were able to drive. So therefore, we were engulfed into the civil rights movement. So we moved to Birmingham, and when the 4 little girls were bombed, they were good friends of my family. And my mother at this time had a sister who just got a job in New Jersey.
So this is the 16th Street Baptist Church?
Yes, absolutely.
With the bomb.
And we moved in 1963, and we moved to a town named Willingboro. And we were the first African-American family on our street. So it's like we were out of one into another. And, but I loved growing up there.
How did you get into track as a kid?
My mother started a track club, and so we didn't have babysitters. So they actually said, come with us to the track, and you see that old sandbox over there, go over there and act like it's the beach. And that honestly is how my relationship with the long jump pit started, making sandcastles in the long jump pit as a babysitter, you know? And that's a true story.
What was your father like?
Wow, Bill Lewis, you know, Dad gave everything to everyone. And he was my #1 confidant. My mother was the power. She was the one that was like, you're doing a workout because you didn't do anything today. Or get back at him. You know, she was the energy, but he was the calming force. Okay, he used to always say, don't get mad, get even. That was him.
Give me a story that epitomizes your mom.
I remember from an athletic standpoint, I went to New York to compete in a track meet. I was in 10th grade. And it was actually the day that Skeets Nehemiah ran 12:9. So I didn't perform well that day, you know, for whatever reason. I don't think I gave the best effort. Skeets probably took my brain away or something, because 12:9, are you kidding me? And so my parents followed that bus all the way home. We got off the bus, and everyone's, you know, walking, because our town wasn't very big. Most people walked home. And so they got out of that car, and she said, where are you going? I said, I'm going home. She goes, no, you're going to practice. You didn't leave everything on that field. You're going to leave it now. And so we went right out there and practiced right then. That's what my mother was like. I was a very, very late bloomer. So I was very small, very frail. Matter of fact, into 10th grade, I was 5'5", 125 pounds. That's what I credit my parents. They said, focus on yourself. Don't worry about getting 8th place, you know. And they'd make us write down our personal best times and distracted me from winning and focus me on myself. And the greatest thing that happened, and I think it was an unintended consequence, is that the only thing I could do is work on my technique and everything else. Like, Carl, the best running guy getting ninth, you know? And then I started growing. So a lot of times the talent comes and then you hone it. Well, I honed it before I had the talent.
Did you have odd jobs growing up?
Oh gosh, I'm just telling on myself. I always wanted money. Always, I just always wanted to have money. Yeah, I did. It's like, you know, they were teachers, we had everything we needed, but I wanted money. So I took this lawnmower, but I didn't want to cut lawns. I hate cutting grass. Still to this day, I don't like cutting grass. So I got 2 or 3 friends, and I started getting houses to do the lawns, and then they cut the grass, we split the cost. So I was kind of like, I booked the jobs, and they were cutting, and I got caught because the lawnmower wasn't at the house, and I was. So I got in trouble, and that was that for that. And then I had a paper route, and when I look back on the paper route, on Sundays, I wouldn't ride my bike, I'd run. So my mother or father would leave the papers in the car, and I'd run from car, you know, boom, and just run. And so here again, all this stuff that was instinctive that I didn't think about.
When did you start setting goals?
Started setting goals at about 12, 13 when I realized that, because when you're 7 and 8, I was about the same. And then when people started growing and getting better, and I didn't as much, that's when I started setting the goals, because that was the only thing I had. I wasn't winning, and I wasn't making the finals.
Did you write these down?
Oh, absolutely. I was always been very organized. So I'd write down my goal for this meet or this year or this thing, or put it on my little bulletin board. You know, back then you had the one, you had the thumbtacks.
Yeah.
And I'd get articles, and through this stuff, I was devouring information. I knew all the long jumpers, and Bob Beamon, how far he jumped, and Ralph Boston. Each year, I would try to jump farther. That was my thing, or run faster. Because when I first started track, I did almost everything trying to find something I was half decent in. And so when your parents are the coaches, and especially the way my mother was like, we want to win, you know, if you're fit, buddy, you're staying home, you know? So I would set like time goals. And then I remember like in 74, 75, I remember putting Ralph Boston. And one thing that sticks in me, the first thing I really started to think, maybe I could be decent. But Ralph Boston had this article that said, Ralph Boston, king of the 27s. I scratched his name out and put Carl Lewis. And left that on my board for years. It was on my board for years.
When did it click?
Junior year in high school, I was a favorite for state and did not win state at all. Lost everything. The team lost state. It was a disaster. And so I went to my coach, and because at the time I was a 14-1 hurdler, a 24-foot long jumper, a 9.7 yards, tell my age, sprinter. And so I said, hey, I want to stop hurdling. And he says, well, you got to hurdle. I mean, you're just as good in the hurdles as the sprints. And I said, well, if I run 9.5 this summer, can I stop hurdling? He goes, yeah, no problem. He said, I'll take that. So I went through the summer and started getting the process. I went to the AAU meets, which is building up to the Nationals. And it just so happened the Nationals was in Memphis, where my brother lived, and he was playing for the Memphis Rogues, the pro soccer team. So I went down there for a week. I stayed with him, and I went to the national championships. And I was second in 100 meters at 9.3, and I jumped 25.9 in the long jump. And the 25.9 was it. Once I did that, that changed everything, because I went from like didn't win state to the #1 jumper in the country in just the summer. And a lot of that, I was growing through the summer, and it was going through that process. So the 25.9, when I did that, everything changed. I said, you know what? I want the national record. I want to make the Olympic team, all that stuff.
You are heavily recruited your senior year. Mm-hmm. You're the #1, I'm guessing, track and field athlete in the United States. What was recruitment like?
Yeah, it was the first decision I ever had to make for myself. So I didn't want to get it wrong. And so I went on some amazing visits. I went to Maryland first, where Ronaldo was. He recruited me as a long jumper. I went to Tennessee, North Carolina, Arizona. When I went to Houston at the end, it was the worst visit. This guy was my host, and he knew me from youth track. All he did was talk about youth track, and I was like, good God, get me out of this place. And Coach Tellez says, I'll see you Sunday morning, and I'll have breakfast and talk to you, and we'll take you to the airport. So
Tom Tellez, legendary track and field.
Right, yes, I'm sorry, yeah, that's it. So I get there, and he says, man, you're tall, you're fast, and let me show you something. So he started showing me real Super 8 tapes of jumpers. And he was saying, they do this, they do this, they do this. And I was mesmerized. And I just realized that's what I've been waiting for, because I admired Jesse Owens, I admired Bob Beamon, and Bob Beamon had jumped 29 feet. So at this time, I was still trying to break the high school record and jump 26 feet, but my mind was like, I want to be an Olympic champion now. So he was the only one that talked about that. So when I'm going home, there's like two people on my shoulders. One sort of saying, if you go to Houston, you're gonna have to deal with that guy. You know? But man, this is the guy that told you, you finally heard what you wanted. What I wanted to hear is someone to tell me I could be Olympic champion. And everyone told me about the school, and everyone told me how great they were, and how much fun it was, and the championships they had. But this one guy said, in his second year at Houston, said, you can be Olympic champion and be a world record holder. So that's when I realized what I wanted to hear. The first meeting we ever had as a student, he asked me, what do you want to accomplish, you know, Carl, like a coach saying, kind of that one-on-one, let's set a goal. And I just looked at him and I said, Coach, I want to be a millionaire, and I never want a real job. And I got to jump 29 feet. And I got to jump 29 feet. And he just looked at me like, did he just say what I think he just said? And I was 18 at the time. And he paused, and he says, well, you got a lot of work. And then he said something that was really important. And he says, you can make a lot of money, but if you focus on the money, you'll never be successful. And he did say that and made it very clear. And he never cared about the money.
But so you've established at a young age that track and field is a business.
Yeah, I'm a sports fan. And I remember watching NBA finals at 11:30 at night, you know, and all of this stuff. And they were on TV and they were talking about being paid. So my thing wasn't like, well, I got to get paid. I was like, well, I'm doing what they do. Why can't I get what they get? And so it was the youth in that to think that way.
You have the boycott in 1980, but you still qualify for the Olympic team. How was that process, knowing that given what was going on with the Cold War, that these games weren't going to happen?
I was 18 when I made the team, and I turned 19, you know, 2 weeks after the games. And my sister Carol was 16, and she made it. So really now it was just do what they tell us to do. You know, go to the White House, go on the tour, yada, yada, because now I'm an Olympian. I treated it like, oh, I'm 18, it'll be another one. Yeah, I mean, just like, and not that flippant, but the way a kid would think, like, oh, I'm gonna go to 3 more Olympics, what's the big deal? And I didn't really understand the gravity of it. And I had teammates that were older, that were training at Houston, but I just looked at it kind of like immaturely. Well, you know, we're not here, it's 18, I'll go to LA.
When did you start going to Europe and getting paid going to Europe?
In 1980. How it was then, everything was under the table. So we were technically amateurs, and when we went to those European meets, they gave us money. And so we took it.
Cash?
Yeah, cash money, yeah.
No paper trail?
No, absolutely not. I learned how to roll through Europe. My first tour, we were 4 to a room, and they had 2 beds, all guys. So, and you know, you're treated like cattle. But then what happened in me was, this is not right. You know, we're Olympians, we're everything else, but that was what the sport was. So that's when I started saying, man, if I get good, I'm not staying here. We're not doing it.
Well, that's why you were ahead of your time of saying, treat us like we're athletes, treat us like we're celebrities, like we're bringing the entertainment here, and you're not treating us like, you know, we should be treated.
Yeah, well, I went into a stadium in Rome, and I'll never forget this. And I walked in, and I saw 3 things. I saw 60,000 people, and I saw banners everywhere, and I saw 60,000 people with money. And I said, where the heck is all of that going? And it just clicked in. I said, it's going somewhere. So I've got to figure out a way for those people to put it in my pocket. That was it. I was 18, my freshman year. And then the next year, my second year, it started to come around. And then my second long jump, I set the world record indoors. And then
You win the 100 and the long jump at the NCAA championship.
Yeah, so what happened, it started indoors. I won the 60 and the long jump indoors. And so when they said that, there was a little blurb in an article like, this hadn't happened since Jesse Owens. And so that was the first time my name was connected with him in the same sentence. And so I realized, wow, one of my idols, and I'm in the same sentence. And then people started asking me, you did what Jesse Owens did. And it dawned to me that, you know what, if they don't know who I am, but if I'm in the same sentence, they're gonna think I'm great. So then I realized that the 100 long jump is what I have to do. And then in those days, the world's fastest human, the world's greatest athlete, and heavyweight champion. Those were the titles.
It was big.
Yeah, and so I said, if I could get that and add the Jesse thing. So I started injecting Jesse into interviews. So I was like, whether you say it or not, I'm gonna connect us. You know, how's the weather, Carl? Great. And Jesse probably ran in rain just like this. So now I'm 19 and I started realizing I've got to promote myself and do this kind of thing. And so that's when that happened.
How would you prepare for a race?
I had a ritual. I would go over and shake people's hands and always say good luck, always say good luck. And I really meant that. But it was a tale of two things. I would shake their hand and say good luck with my mouth, and my eyes would say, I'm gonna kick your ass. And
well, so give me that look. So if we're competing,
it'd be like, oh, good luck. And you know what? And I was taller than everyone else, because in most of the 80s, 70s, most of the sprinters were shorter. You know, there are a couple of tall, but most of them were shorter. So I was the tallest one, so I could do that looking down. So I'm looking down at you, saying, I'm gonna kick your ass, you know. And so then I would go out and get, and they say, come your mark. Well, I would go up, and as I'm walking up, I would go through the race. Put your feet on the blocks, put your knees down. Make sure when you come to set, push off the front block. I would talk myself through it. And then I'd get down, just before I got to the mark, I would always stop, because I always wanted to be last. So I would stop and sit, and I would go through the race again, the technique. And then I'd
so
go
last in the blocks.
Absolutely. So we'd get all the way down, and then a lot of times I'd sit up on my knee and just wait for them to go down. And I would say, okay, push out of the blocks, all the things. I'd say that over and over. And then when I put my hands down, total silence, and then bang. And then that's it. And so then it was always the patience of push, 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 because I never tried to be first out of the blocks. You know, everyone said, if you had a better start, well, our race was designed to win at the end.
You're a closer.
Yeah, because in the 100 meters, you can only run full speed 4 or 5 steps, 1 second. So 90% of the race, that's 10 meters, 90% of the race is speeding up and slowing down. So it's who manages that the best. And so basically—
But you could manage to get top-end speed in the final 10 meters.
Yeah, well, no, what I did is that I hit top-end speed from 60 to 70, and then slowed down from 70 to 100. Most people hit top-end 40 to 50. And so I spread out the acceleration, because you know you're gonna slow down faster than you are speeding up. So I spread it out. So that's why at that middle, they were starting to slow down. When I hit top speed, that's why I went by them and then kept going, because they're speeding. They're trying to hold on longer than I was. There was a meet in 1983 at the National Championships. That day was the first time I tried the triple post-collegiate. And I won the 100 the first day. I won the long jump. I jumped 28:10 on my first jump, the second longest jump in history. Then I come back and I set the American record in the 200. I came out of the turn, and I'm running in the lead, and I raised my hands about 15 meters before, because I couldn't believe it. I'm like, this is so easy. And I crossed the line that day, and I said, God gave you something a lot more than everybody else. And I realized that I wasn't just this hardworking guy and everything. I realized it was more than that.
And then you were on the cover of Sports Illustrated.
That was pretty amazing, because there were so many emotions to that, and it was kind of like a dreamy time, because all this stuff happened so fast. And you know, in 10th grade, I was the midget can't beat Carroll, and then 11th grade, I didn't win state, and then now, just really 4 years later, I'm like on top of the world.
Were you arrogant? Cocky?
Absolutely, I was everything. It was just like, who is this guy? And then the brashness, which I look back as a lot of my age, of a 19, 20, 21-year-old.
That takes us to 1984, where you say, I'm going to win 4 gold. I'm going to replicate Jesse Owens. You put the pressure on yourself.
To me, it was part of the process of making the sport professional and building my global brand, because it's going to be in LA, so I wanted to give them a story. And so I said, I want to go for 4, Jesse's 4. And when I did so well at the World Championships, everyone's like, he could do it. And so I felt I could do it. I was not sure about it. But then all of a sudden, the convergence came. And what was interesting is magazines like Esquire called and put me on the cover. And then GQ said, we want to put you on the cover. The second African-American man to be on the cover of GQ. I was on the cover of a national magazine nonstop, 100% of the time, from December until after the Olympics. So and they didn't have as many then, you know, so it's People this week, even the National Enquirer, you know, they were talking about my knees, but Time twice, Newsweek twice, it just kept going on and on and on. So here I was, a person a year and a half before, they didn't know, and now I'm known everywhere. It just happened so fast, and we didn't have the handlers and all this stuff that we didn't have social media. We were all kind of in control by the federations and people. So then this convergence of need for publicity, need for interviews and everything just hit so hard and fast. So I was like, whoa, I still have to train, I still have to do this. But I really felt like I had to change the sport. I felt the responsibility.
So that leads us to the 100 meters, 1984 Olympics. Mom and Dad are in the crowd.
Yeah, that was the first ever of anything, of the Olympics. And if I lost that one and won 3 golds, then it's like, well, it's over. You know, so I was so nervous for that race.
And this is how it played out.
And from the start, Lewis in 7. It is Grady off to a great start in 5. Here comes Lewis in the second half. Here comes Lewis. He wins it. Grady is second. I think Ben Johnson got third. Carl Lewis doing it. 9.99.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you got criticized for grabbing the American flag, and people said that. We see that now every Olympics, every athlete who wins grabs the flag, and you were accused of staging that.
Yeah. That is the most excited, the only time in my entire career I ever lost it. You saw me go across the line. I was so emotional because I felt like the 100 was 60% of the 4. And when I got past that, I was like, okay, I can do this. And so when I'm running around and I'm looking in the stands and looking at things, this guy has this big flag. And so I said, I want to take it. And I grabbed it, I did the lap and went back and gave it back to him, you know. And so they interviewed him. Oh, I was just there and he asked for it. And then the next day, someone writes, oh, it's you know, Package Carl, he staged the flag. And I'm like, I don't even know this guy.
Like you planted the flag?
Yeah, like I said, hey, you know, I'm walking into the stadium or warming up and saying, hey, John over there, you look good, and that's a great flag. Move down to row 16 so I can see you. You know, seriously? I mean, it's absurd to think, but that's what was steamrolling.
How much of a race, 100 meters, is decided before the gun goes off?
Oh, I'd say 90%, because it's confidence. You build your confidence. 100 meters of all the sprints is the most rhythm-oriented race there is. Of all the races, period, it's all about rhythm. You establish that rhythm and you run it, and then you run it over and over and over and get that rhythm.
Because you know how many steps it's going to take, how many strides it's going to take.
44.
Right? 44 every time.
Yep, 44 every time. Your feet should be in certain spots, at certain places. You accelerate, it's patience, all these things. And once you get that rhythm, then man, you know, you ran the semifinal, you had that rhythm. Hey, I got this rhythm again, and it's a wrap.
What's it like to run fast?
The easiest way I try to describe it is if you're pushing a car. And I know all y'all ran out of gas, so don't get brand new now. You know, come on, what is that about? But once the car starts moving and it feels easy, and then it just leaves you. Well, when it leaves you is what it feels like. It's just so relaxed. It feels like you're on top of it. You're touching the ground, just like you're skipping a rock on water. That's what it feels like.
So that's the first event. Then you have the long jump.
Right.
What are you thinking going into that long jump?
Well, the long jump was the prohibitive favorite, and I said I only wanted to take 2 jumps because I still had the 200 and the relay, and one of the things that was good and bad is that they had a commercial running before the Olympics with Bob Beamon in it. And he's like, you can break the world record, go get it, kid. So the whole idea was, is Carl gonna break the world record today? But I had no intention of even trying, because it was a thing where I was saving myself for the other events. And and the interesting thing about it is that over the course of 8 days, I competed seven of the 8 days, 11 races and 2 days of jumping. And 3 times multiple, 4 times I did something 2 times in a day. So by the time we got down towards the end, I was hurting. I mean, I couldn't even move. I was so sore every day. It just got progressively worse. And so when the long jump comes, my intention was just to do 2 jumps, because we know in LA, after about 7, it gets cool. And Coach Celeste says no more than 2, because at 7:30, it gets a little cooler.
Here's how it played out, the 1984 Olympic long jump.
This win, and here he comes.
And he's running down in tandem with the steeplechase runners going to the finish, but he's blocked them out, and his jump, and the crowd responds to that.
Official mark is 28 feet, a quarter inch. There's only a few people that have ever jumped that far, and I thought that was an extremely restrained attempt.
That's how people should have responded to you at the Olympics, with applause.
Yeah.
They booed.
Yeah, because I took one more and stopped. And so people are like, they're watching me warm up and running around, and then everyone's jumping. Then when it came up to me, I said pass, and then by the 4th one, they were like, wait a minute, he's not jumping anymore. So they started booing. And so they were, you know, and it's interesting, because in my mind, I'm saying, wait a minute, they didn't understand it. And I thought that we as a sport should have done a better job, and I could have, better job of really saying, hey, I'm only gonna take 2, and I'm not gonna take any more. I'm not going for the world record, I'm going for the gold medal. And I could have done a better job of that at the time, but here again, we're doing things on the fly. And the federation in sport didn't do it, because here again, we're in this tussle over becoming professional.
But also, you have let everybody know for a long period of time, Bob Beamon is in your sight.
Exactly.
So you're your own worst enemy. That if you just said, look, I got all these events, it's so important to win 4 golds for my country, and if I happen to break Bob's record, you know, it might be by accident, because I got to conserve my energy.
Exactly. And you're exactly right. I got caught in this train, and then I didn't, you know, I could have managed that part better. There's no question about it. So I accept the full responsibility of that.
You've gotten the 2 tough ones out of the way.
Right.
The 100, the long jump. So now you got 200, and then you got the 4x100.
Right.
How are you feeling?
The 200, I felt confident, but here again, Kirk Baptiste, who was my teammate in Houston, I thought he had a shot at it, and I had to run well. So my thing was play keep away. I said, I'm not waiting for you. I'm running for the line. If I die and you catch me, you win, but you're going to have to catch me, because I'm going.
It's a fair start and a great start for Carl Lewis. Also a very good start for Kirk Baptiste, and Jefferson is in the picture as well. It is Carl Lewis out in front, running for his 3rd. It is Lewis. It is Silva on the outside as Baptiste now moving up, and the United States may sweep. Lewis wins the gold, and it's a 1-2-3 American sweep of the 200 meters.
Now that's something that everyone expected to make possibly in the 100 meter and the 200 meter, and it's finally happened here.
You get to exhale.
Yeah, I tell you.
It feels like you're holding your breath watching
I know,
it.
it's weird. It's weird.
Breathe, Carl, breathe.
I know. You know, the 200, when I crossed the line, that was when I just said, I can't believe it's over, because all we have to do is not drop the stick and the relay. And my thought was, through it all, we were the best team. And going through all that pressure, I said, I'm going to run all the way through the finish line, no matter what. And I didn't expect to set the world record. I just ran hard all the way through the tape. And that was kind of the icing on the cake for me. But then I'm standing there, and the athletes from multiple countries came and lifted me up, like the football coaches or something. And they walked me out of the stadium. And then, you know, the first thing is that, well, the athletes don't like you. And I said, well, you can say what you want to say, but that wasn't staged either.
What is mom and dad, how do they feel? How do you share that moment?
I went back to the house, dove in the pool with my clothes on, you know,
Because?
And just because I wanted to rush and release the week. Because the great thing about it, the joy in that week, unfortunately, was crossing the finish line and standing on the podium. The rest of it was just nonstop pressure.
How famous are you at this point after the 84 games?
You know, if you look at it, probably at the moment, maybe the biggest star in the world. And so, okay, but think about it. I was the biggest star in the world, probably. I'm 23 years old. I just won 4 gold medals in the Olympics. How can I top this? And I thought about that. So where do you go from here? I have a whole life to live. But what happened is that now the shift is shifted a little bit to the, well, now he's too big and he's too much. And the sport started saying, oh my God, now he's talking about money and we're changing. And then now things that I did, that I was a nice little guy, now all of a sudden it's arrogance. So then it all shifted to now defending who I was.
What are your goals now post-1984 Olympic Games?
I shifted to taking it one step at a time. I thought of 88, but I didn't think of it that way. 85 was kind of like a recovery year because it was so hard. And then I said, well, I'll start building back up 86, 87, and 88. That was what it was. And then in 86, Ben comes around. So all of a sudden things changed.
When did you realize he was a rival?
86. We went to the Goodwill Games in Moscow, and he won there. It was just almost out of nowhere. And so I'd known him since 1980. And next thing you know, it's like this guy that we knew wasn't that good is all of a sudden, where did this come from?
When are you suspicious of Ben and being able to accomplish this?
86 then, right away. Because the word on the street, per se, was that his coach gave it to people. And then all of a sudden, he pops kind of out of nowhere and starts running really fast.
As a sprinter, when do you know, like how much do you drop in time before you guys notice?
Yeah, that's a good question. If you're young, you can do it up until you're like 20, 21 because you could grow and all things. But once you're in your 20s, it goes in small increments. Just to give you an example, when I was 19 or 20, I ran like 9.97. And then I ended up running 9.86 at 30. So it took me 10 years to get 1/10 of a second. So you have someone who was running 10.2, and then 2 years later, they're running 9.9. It just doesn't make sense when you're 25 years old. So that's when we know.
So this is the build-up to 88, but May 5th, 1987, your father dies.
Yeah. We went to visit him about a week before, and he was like kind of towards the end. He was really small, and of course, we knew it was going. And he just said, son, do me a favor, never miss a meet. You know, I said, Dad, I want to come back for you. He said, no, if you have a track meet, don't miss it. I'll be fine. So he passed away a few days later on a Tuesday, and the funeral was set for Friday. So I had a meet in Modesto, California, Saturday evening. So I flew up there Wednesday, and we did all our things and prepared for it. And then the funeral happened Friday, and it was amazing. The church was full, and people gave him a lot of respect in the community, so that was good. After the funeral, or during the funeral, I put my gold medal from the 100 meters in his hand. And interestingly enough, Willie Gault, a good friend of mine, was standing right next to me, and my mother was there. My mother said, oh, that's your medal. You keep your, she was like, keep your medal. You did this. And then I said, no, that's okay. I'll win another one next year. Did a red eye, flew to California, San Francisco, got in the car and drove to Modesto, and ran the 200 and won it. And so then afterwards, Modesto was this meet where they had an interviewer at the end, and he went to interview me, and everyone was silent because everyone knew. The stands knew, the athletes knew, and some of the people were crying and everything. So I just said, well, I just did it for him, and then just brought it down. But
how do you keep it together when you put that gold medal in your dad's hands? Or did you keep it together?
I lost him, but I gained the inspiration because I said, I've got to win this gold medal in 88. I got to win it because I promised it.
So now we have the build up to Seoul. 1988, Ben is your rival. Now it's on, now it's official. What was the hype like leading into those games?
It was big, and so I actually had a tale of two emotions. One emotion was Ben is dirty, it's ridiculous. They're not trying to catch him. And so it's just killing the sport and blah, blah, blah. And then the other side is, well, this is really good for the sport. Because
Well, this is the biggest story of the 88 Olympics.
Yeah, and we're getting all the attention. If we ride this thing right, we can make a lot of money out of it. We could build the sport, track and field. We can come on the other side, bigger. And so there was two emotions. But then there's the emotion of the 100. Hey, I got to win this 100 because I promised Dad, and I want to win it for the Olympics. And also, Coach Tellez kept saying, I don't care what he's on, you can beat him. Just run your own race, you can beat him. And then that was it. So there were all these things happening at the same time.
Did you think you could win? Any doubt?
You know what? I wasn't certain. And I didn't think like that. I just thought it was the most uncertain race I ever ran in my life.
Here's how that race played out.
And it's a fair start. And it is Raymond Stewart with a start. It is Ben Johnson with a start. Can Carl catch him? No! It's Ben Johnson. Ben Johnson does it again. Unbelievable! 9-7-9. Win 1.1. That's legal.
You can hear the announcer saying that's legal.
Yeah.
The time was legal.
But he wasn't.
Yeah, he wasn't legal.
He was room.
Yeah. Now, there is, I want to go back to that handshake here because I didn't notice this, but watch, you're being the gentleman. You go over, you know he's dirty, he beats you, you accept it.
You know what happened there is when I crossed the line, I said, Dad, I'll let you down. That was my thought. And then I got it together and I said, yeah, but if he was sitting in the stands, he'd be mad if I didn't do that. And the interesting thing about it, when I went to him, he pulled away, as you saw. He didn't want to do it. So I grabbed his arm with my left hand and made him do it. And then, of course, I hightailed out of the stadium. Now, if I'd run as fast in the race as I walked out of that stadium, I probably would have won. But you know what was bizarre about that? I got back and everyone was there. My mother and all of them were there. And my mother had tears in her eyes, and my man, everyone was sad. And I said, hey, I got a long jump tomorrow. So get it together. I've got to long jump tomorrow.
But I think that was your fastest Olympic time ever, wasn't it? Was it 9:92?
Yep, that was it. Yeah, absolutely.
So there's part of you that has to feel proud that you ran that fast.
Well, you know what? Coach Tellez was really upset with me because I looked over 3 times. And it's hard to see, but I looked 3 times. And he said, he said, I don't think you could have beaten him that day. But
You're looking at Ben?
Yeah, I was distracted.
But you don't normally do that.
No, that was all that stuff in my mind. So when he got out like that, I was like, oh, I don't know if I can get him. So I was distracted. He said, you'd have run 9.8 something. So, and that's how he was. He was like, if you had focused on your own race, you'd have run 9.8. And I'm like, well, there was a lot of stuff going on, you know.
When did you find out that Ben had tested dirty?
The following night, in the middle of the night, I got a call. And it's like, well, Ben tested positive and he's going to be disqualified tomorrow. You're going to get the gold medal. Well, it was like excitement. And then all of a sudden, oh my goodness, what do I say? If I said one thing off, oh, he doesn't deserve it. So there were so many things to think. So we had to think about that. And then I ended up calling Bryant Gumbel.
What do you say? Right.
I didn't know the depth of what he went through to get to this point at that time. But I tried to focus on being happy. I did the right thing and try to pivot it away and try to make a nice statement.
How do you think steroids affected the sport of track and field?
Well, a couple of things. Number one, it put us in the forefront of the drug issue, which I thought was a good thing because it gave us a unique opportunity to try to take the lead in fighting it. But it also put us in a place where people could say, oh, everyone's on it. And then we didn't fight back with that issue. So it was good and bad. You know, and I hear something that really bothers me now when someone, oh my goodness, if so-and-so tests positive, the sport's dead. No, everything is a pivot. If the best athlete in the sport tested positive, then you pivot that to say, we will run 11 flat 100 meters so that your children can run in a clean sport. But instead we're like, oh, no, we're just not, we never had the right people saying the right things, doing the right thing, because our sport lacks leadership.
1991 World Championships, you got Mike Powell.
Yeah, Mike Powell.
So you got a real rival here.
Yeah, got a rival. But he told me something about 3 years ago that I never knew. When I jumped 28 feet the first time, I was 19. And he was in the stands. He said, I was in the stands, I was a senior in high school, long jumper, and I saw you do it live at UCLA. And he says, man, if I ever want to beat him, I have to jump 28 feet. I'd won 10 years in a row, had not lost. And
So a decade of not losing in the long jump.
yes, a decade.
And Mike Powell comes along, and this is how the long jump played out.
The marvelous facility here, the stimulus of a great athlete here going for it. Well, that's going to be very close indeed. 8:91, the longest long jump in history. Long jump, Mike Powell. So unlucky in the previous round to be denied a huge jump by a marginal no jump. Now, what's this one going to be? Well, it looks like 9 meters. He's produced the longest jump in history, 8:91, and he's being beaten. It's 8:95. Bob Beamon's world record has been smashed by Mike Powell.
So it's one thing to lose. It's another thing to lose to a guy who beats Bob Beamon's record
Right.
that you wanted, and you have the 3 best jumps of your life.
Yeah, you know, after that, I had 2 jumps left. So Mike and I, we get along really well. And it's when it happened, he's running and everything. And so I took my stuff off and got on the runway. And someone said, "It's not your jump." You know? So,
I don't care, damn it. I'm going to run.
I do, you know, and then, oh, my bad, you know. So I knew I was going to win. You know, I mean, I was really certain I was going to jump farther. And Mike's like, "I knew you were going to jump 9 meters and win it." So I went back and I jumped 2 29-foot jumps after that. So when I finally did it, I went past Beamon. I jumped 29 2 more times in one day and still lost. But that's the long jump. And the good thing about it, if it's any one of the people, I'm glad it was Mike, because the long jump, you can break it and do it one time.
What feels better, to run fast or jump far?
Oh, for me to jump far. Because when I long jumped, I felt like I was flying. Because to jump far, you really have to do the wrong thing off the ground. You have to leave your body in a position where you feel like you're going to fall on your face for that split second. And then you do all these motions to stop that, and then you're flying. So in the good jumps, it felt so easy, it felt like I was flying. We're in the air 1 second, but it feels like 5 or 6. It really does. And my mindset was I wanted to fly when I jumped. So I just ran into the air. And so it was soft, and when I landed, most of the time you saw it just landed, came right out. It wasn't hard. Wasn't difficult. It was just floating.
What are your goals going into 92?
92, believe it or not, I wanted to win 4 again. And so now I'm 31.
Did you say you wanted to win 4 publicly?
Well, I didn't publicly, but that's what I was doing. And I went to see now after doing it in 84 and then making it in 88, I didn't have to say anything. It was just a matter of, well, if he enters all 4, he's trying again.
You qualify long jump and relay in 92, don't you?
Well, what happened is I found out I had an infection. I was sick, but I was 6th in the 100, and I don't even remember what I was in the 200. But I made the long jump, and so therefore I was an alternate for the relay. And so when we got there, one of the athletes, Mark Witherspoon, got injured, and that's why I ended up running, because he got injured. I was on a mission on that relay. Anchor Lake, I said, you didn't see the real me at the trials. This is the real me, where I could run with anyone still at 31.
Which brings us to the quote, "Life is about timing." What does that mean to you? I don't know if it's about personal life, it's professional life, it's family.
It's everything. And I think that so often we try to dictate what our life is going to be instead of trying to be ready for it to be. And that came, I just said that one time, but it really did. It's encompass who I really was. A little kid that wasn't very good, but I kept working hard, waiting for my time. And it's interesting because I coach at Houston now, and I have a kid on the team who's been the alternate every year. He'll be a senior this year. He was the alternate every year, but he ran on the relay team that won 2 national championships, and he has a collegiate record. Well, why? Because he continued to be ready for when his time comes. And so that's what I did. I always try to be ready for when my time comes.
1992 long jump at the Olympics. This is how it played out.
You can't say enough about him. 2-time Olympic champion in the long jump and 100 meters, the only man to ever do that. Oh, and what a jump considering how far behind the board he took off on that jump. He denied Lewis a third world championship title in Tokyo. Can he stop him from winning 3 Olympic golds? This is his chance. Oh, that's a long one. But is it long enough? No. Powell will get the silver for the second time. Lewis wins for 3 times in a row.
Father Time's not on your side. How did that feel?
That felt great because you know, the Olympics is always the event. The World Championships to me is like 99, and the Olympics is 100. And I felt like being the most consistent. I said I need to win this because I'm the most consistent person, and that was a third in a row. But honestly, it didn't dawn on me.
You win another gold medal in the 4x100, so you now have 8 gold medals.
I look at it as that, my God, I cannot believe I got to 8. Because, you know, when you get to 6 and stuff, you just keep going year after year. And then once I got to 8, then the word was like, can you get the 9th to tie the most or go over it? So that was kind of the story. And it wasn't even, oh yeah, and get 3 or get 4 in a row in the long jump. I didn't even think about it.
How healthy are you at this time?
92 was good. 93, I was in a car accident. Someone ran a stop sign and hit the car. And so that messed up my back. And so I didn't jump at all in 93 because of that. And so that's when I started thinking about more things about my body, and diet and nutrition. I went to massage therapy school because I felt doctors are telling me things and I don't know anything. I don't have any information to have a rebuttal. So I went to massage therapy school.
Wait, you wanted to be a massage, or learned about
I wanted to learn about
therapist.
that because I knew about my body.
Okay.
And so I can help make decisions for my body. And then I think the best thing that happened to me at this stage, like you said, getting older, was the fact that all the guys were 5 and 6 years younger than me. So I saw my competition right there. 91, 92, Santa Monica Track Club had 5 of the top 10 sprinters in the world. And I was the oldest of the top 10. So there was no, well, I don't know, can I win next week? I was like, if I can't win practice, it's a wrap. You know?
You're 35 going into the 96 games in Atlanta.
Yep, I felt like I could win it. I wasn't sure, but I felt that I could win it. And I just didn't see anyone with a lot of confidence, and that was really what it was. So
And you only qualified for the long jump.
yes, only
right?
the long jump.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing about it is that I walk out, and the qualifying is like 45 people, 2 runways of 20-something. And when they sit there and they start announcing us, the crowd gives me a standing ovation. And it was really emotional for me because
Now you're an underdog?
yeah, I'm the underdog. It's my second chance in America. And I feel like the whole stadium's rooting for me. And I felt like they felt it. I could tell the tension. My first jump is like 26 low or something. And the second jump I foul. Well, I'm in like 12th place or something, 11th place. And so then someone jumps and they finally put me out of the top 12. I go to 13th. And so, you know, the crowd doesn't really know. They just have it up on the board. And then the announcer says, you know, ladies and gentlemen, so-and-so just pulled into 12th place. Carl Lewis is in 13th out of qualifying. I'm like, seriously? I mean, it just puts me on stadium blast, you know? So I ended up, I think, 14th or 15th. So I had this one jump left. So I stand at the end of the runway, and I'm standing there, and I said, you know what you're supposed to do, you know what you have to do. But guess what? You have 8 Olympic gold medals and a silver. And if you flame out today, that's going to be your last story.
Why is it emotional now?
Because of all the emotions I went through in my career. I went through the little kid next door, everyone loves, da-da-da, to the villain, and then thrust with the bend and all that stuff, to the world record, and now the old guy that no one, it's over. And now the guy's saying, wait a minute, he can do this. We're behind him. I mean, so I went through all of it in my 12 years of Olympic experience. So I hit the board and I go into the air, land, and the whole crowd sees it's illegal, and they all roar because they know it's far enough, because there was like a line where you're supposed to go. So I get up, and when you take your jump, if you're over a set distance, you automatically qualify, and you don't have to stay. So I did it, they announced it, the place roars, you know, I went into first place in the qualifier. So I could go back and, I had a little pep in my step. I felt like Richard Pryor, boom, 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 So,
I'll play the role of
yeah.
Gene Wilder here.
Yeah, here we go. Yeah, you bad, you bad.
You bad.
But I didn't look at them. But I knew they were looking, saying, oh my God, I can't believe he just did that. And he's 35, what's gonna happen tomorrow? I knew that.
And tomorrow happened this way.
Trying to tie our order for 4 consecutive gold medals in a single event. 35-year-old Carl Lewis. Oh, this is the first time that I have seen him run down the runway for real this entire year. And this is his reaction to the distance. 27 feet, 10.5 inches for Carl Lewis, into the lead by more than a foot.
Little kiss to dad.
Yep.
Pretty emotional up there.
Yeah,
Starts to sink in.
Yeah, that, when I stepped down off the stand, I knew I never wanted to jump again. No desire, and never did. And it was so clear it was taken away. And I am probably the luckiest athlete that you could ever imagine. I hit the home run on my last at bat. I strike someone out at the World Series.
So walk-off.
It was a walk-off. And I have never, I competed the next year. I did some sprinting, but exhibition races, because basically it was a good gig, and Daddy had to pick up that last few checks. But I'm the luckiest. I have never wanted to compete again. And so I just stepped off and said that was it.
Sports Illustrated labeled you the best ever. That's a bad dude right there.
Yeah. It took a while for all this to sink in because of all the emotional stuff that went for so long. And I appreciate my career a lot more now. Every year I get older, because now I see people that say, oh, I was a kid when you competed, or I appreciate it even more now. And it allowed me to find other things. When I retired, I went off and went away because I needed to. I was burned out. And then I've kind of gravitated back, and now I'm helping again.
You are the most decorated U.S. track and field athlete of all time.
Yeah, with the 9.
Yeah.
And so, and it's hard. And what saddens me, honestly, it's going to be really hard for anyone to do that again, because we're in a world of specialization. If you get good at something, kids don't want to take the challenge doing something else.
If you were coming up now, would you be doing 100 meters, 200, or long jump?
If I was coming up now, I'd probably be a soccer player. Because you know what? And that's good and bad, because you know what? They tell you at 12, at 12 I was a better soccer player than track athlete. They would have probably told me, you need to go year round. I would have pushed track out of the way. So that's what we try to do, is encourage kids to do multiple sports, even beyond the time of, well, you have to specialize at 12. No, you don't. The good kids are going to be good, So do multiple sports and learn multiple things and give your body a rest.
2008, you're quoted as questioning Usain Bolt's times.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, going back to what we talked about, when you have that precipitous drop, then great runners, great sprinters take notice. What was it about Bolt that made you take notice that maybe this wasn't on the up and up?
My thing was, I didn't accuse anyone of anything. But what I said is that we have to question if someone drops that fast like that. If you don't, then you're crazy or a fool or something, whatever I said. And so, of course, it becomes personal. But my issue with drugs has always been the brand. Being a sport that people think are on drugs, it's bad for the brand. And I didn't trust it, and so I put it out there. And you know what? People ask me, what do you say now? I said, I already said what I said. So there's nothing to change, and I stand by it. It's not personal.
But do you still question Bolt's times?
So yeah, of course, I question that. And so that doesn't mean I'm saying he's on it, but we should question it. When I ran 9.86 or whatever, there's a question anyone that does that kind of drop. So, and I didn't say anywhere, oh yeah, he's on it. I said we should question it, because if you don't, then it's ridiculous. That's it. And I stand by that, absolutely.
What's next?
Take advantage of the life that I've earned. You know, that's the big thing. I worked hard, I went through a lot, and I'm 57 years old, and now I can do whatever I want. And that's something that I try to admire.
Got some fun questions here. You got a bucket list?
Kind of-ish.
What would surprise me that's on that bucket list that you want to do?
I want to light the torch of the Olympics. That's what I want to do. That's the ultimate bucket list. Hint, hint.
Any regrets?
Yeah, about 6 million, but guess what? I'm afraid if there's anyone different, I wouldn't be here now. So I went through a hell of a lot, but I'm having fun time.
What do you eat on your cheat days?
Oh, potato chips. I don't like sweets, but I like French fries and potato chips. Oh my goodness, what?
You like salt.
Absolutely, I like salty foods and really, really high spicy stuff.
You were a trendsetter. You were so far ahead of your time when it came to track and field, but also athletes taking advantage of their brand, their image, everything about you. You're no longer the fastest man in the world, but you are the greatest American track and field athlete of all time. Ladies and gentlemen, Carl Lewis.
Thanks.
Did great. Did great. Did great.